Have you ever wondered what scares us most about getting older? It's not the wrinkles, not the aching joints, not even the growing number of pills we take each morning. It's the silence, the empty chair at dinner, the phone that doesn't ring, the birthdays with no candles, no cake. It's the creeping feeling that maybe we've become invisible. For many older adults, the deepest fear isn't death itself. It's dying alone. No one there to say goodbye. No one to hold your hand in those final moments. Just a quiet room, a ticking clock, and a breath that no one hears. This video isn't about scaring you. It's not about painting death as something dark and cold. Instead, it's about looking closely at a truth we often ignore. The quiet, painful reality that many seniors face as they grow older. In the United States, millions of seniors live alone, and many of them, through no fault of their own, slowly drift away from family, from friends, from life itself. Days turn into weeks, and weeks into months, without a single visitor, without a hug, without the warmth of another human voice. Loneliness doesn't knock. It slips in through the cracks. It shows up in the silence after the evening news, in the untouched coffee mug, in the unopened mail. But here's the part we rarely talk about. Most of us don't plan to die alone. It just happens. Life moves fast. Children grow up. Friends move away. Spouses pass on. And somewhere in between, we forget to reach out. Or we stop trying because no one's reaching back. And yet, despite all this, despite the fear and sadness, there's something powerful in facing this truth. Because when we bring it into the light, we can begin to change it. This video is for you. If you've ever felt forgotten, if you've ever stared at the ceiling at 3 a.m. and wondered, will anyone remember me when I'm gone? You're not alone in that feeling. And in the next few minutes, we'll explore why this fear runs so deep, and how, even in our loneliest moments, there's still hope, still connection, still a way to be seen. So take a deep breath. Let's walk into this truth together. It was just after midnight when the nurse walked down the hallway. The fluorescent lights hummed softly overhead. Most of the patients had long since drifted into sleep, but in room 217, everything was still. Too still. He was 79 years old. No family listed. No visitors logged. His name was William, though the staff only learned that from the ID card folded into his wallet. He came in alone. He was going to leave the same way. The machines had already gone quiet. No beeping. No alarms. Just the soft rhythm of the air conditioning and the occasional rustle of nurses changing shifts. William had passed sometime in the last hour. Peacefully, according to the night nurse. But it was the kind of peace that carried a different kind of weight. A silence that wasn't restful, but hollow. No hand to hold. No voice to comfort. No final words. Just a body now still and a world that kept moving. This isn't a rare story. It's not a tragedy of one man. It's a quiet truth echoing across thousands of nursing homes, hospital rooms, and small apartments every single day. In the United States, nearly 30% of adults over 65 live alone. Many of them have lost spouses, outlived siblings, or seen children drift away across states and schedules. And when the end comes, there's no farewell party, no tears. Often, there's just a staff member with a clipboard, and maybe, if they're lucky, a chaplain on call. We don't like to talk about this. Not at family dinners, not in senior support groups, not even to ourselves. Because dying alone feels like more than just dying. It feels like disappearing. As if everything we've done, all the lives we've touched, all the small moments we thought mattered, suddenly fade into nothing. You might be wondering, how did it come to this? Was it neglect? Was it fate? Or is this simply the shape of modern aging? It starts slowly. A spouse passes, friends stop calling, your grown children are busy, jobs, grandkids, stress, life. You don't want to be a burden. So you stop reaching out. You tell yourself you're fine, until one day you're in a hospital room with no one to say goodbye to. And the saddest part? You're not even surprised. One nurse once said, "Sometimes we're the only ones there when they go. And we do what we can. We hold their hand. We whisper something kind. But it never feels like enough." Because no stranger can replace a lifetime of connection. This is the unspoken truth of senior life in America. Dying alone isn't just possible. It's quietly common. It's not a headline. It's not a scandal. It's a soft reality creeping in like dusk. But here's the thing. Just because it's common doesn't mean it's okay. We can do better. We have to. Because every life deserves to be witnessed. Every goodbye should be heard. Every last breath should be honored. William deserved more. So did the woman 2 rooms down. So did the man in the quiet house at the end of the street. And maybe, just maybe, if we remember their stories, we'll remember our own humanity too. Because no one should leave this world feeling unseen. And that is where this journey begins. Dying alone isn't rare. In fact, it's far more common than most people realize. It doesn't make the news. It doesn't trend online. But every single day, in homes and hospitals across America, seniors slip away with no one by their side. You might think this only happens to people who chose to be isolated, or to those without children, or to the homeless. But the truth is, loneliness in old age is an equal opportunity visitor. It doesn't care about your background, your bank account, or how many Facebook friends you have. According to the U.S. Census Bureau, more than 14 million adults over 65 live alone. That's nearly 1 in 3 seniors. And while living alone doesn't always mean feeling lonely, the statistics around emotional isolation are even more alarming. The National Institute on Aging reports that prolonged loneliness can be as damaging to your health as smoking 15 cigarettes a day. Let that sink in. Being socially isolated is not just a matter of the heart, it's a matter of life and death. And yet, this growing crisis rarely finds its way into public conversations. We talk about aging in terms of retirement savings, medical care, and senior housing. But what about the emotional terrain? What about the silent evenings, the birthdays with no calls, the fear of falling ill and no one noticing for days? It's closer than we think. You might have a neighbor who hasn't had a visitor in weeks, a distant aunt who now spends holidays alone. Or perhaps it's you, finding yourself more and more in conversations with the television than with people. Technology, for all its wonders, hasn't filled the gap. Zoom calls aren't the same as hugs. Emojis aren't the same as real laughter. And text messages, while well-meaning, can never replace the presence of a warm voice across a kitchen table. And then there's the emotional toll, the creeping sense that you no longer matter, that the world has moved on without you, that your stories, your memories, your wisdom are fading into irrelevance. One elderly man once said, "It's not dying that scares me. It's dying without anyone knowing I existed." There's something deeply human about wanting to be seen, to be remembered, to have someone bear witness to your life, your joys, your regrets, your small victories. The danger of dying alone is not just the physical solitude, it's the emotional invisibility. This reality isn't limited to those in their 80s or 90s. Even younger seniors, those in their 60s and early 70s, are beginning to experience the early signs of this emotional detachment. Friend circles grow smaller. Mobility issues increase. Adult children become absorbed in their own busy lives. And so, slowly, silently, we drift. But awareness is the first step. Because once we see it, once we really see it, we can start to reach out, to reconnect, to rewrite the ending. This isn't about pity. It's about presence. It's about recognizing that every life, no matter how quiet, carries weight. That no one should feel like they're fading while still alive. And if we dare to look around, really look, we'll see just how close this issue truly is. Not across the country, not in a documentary, but next door, or maybe in the mirror. Why does the fear of dying alone hurt so deeply? Because it's not just about the end. It's about everything that leads up to it. Imagine spending a lifetime building memories, raising children, working hard, surviving losses, celebrating wins, and then, one day, feeling like none of it mattered. Not because it wasn't meaningful, but because there's no one left to remember it with you. Dying alone feels like the ultimate erasure, a vanishing act, as if you've been written out of the story long before the final chapter ends. It's more than fear, it's grief. Not just over the future, but over a present that feels increasingly disconnected. Many seniors report feeling invisible, not seen in grocery stores, not heard at family gatherings, not consulted in decisions that affect their own lives. And this quiet dismissal chips away at the sense of self. Loneliness whispers, lies, that you don't matter, that your absence wouldn't change anything, that the world would carry on just the same. But here's the truth. You do matter. Your story is worth telling. Your presence, your voice, your existence, it all leaves a mark. So why is this fear so hard to shake? Because connection is not a luxury. It's a basic human need. From the moment we're born, we're wired for touch, for eye contact, for love. And when those things fade, it can feel like we're unraveling. In one study from the University of California, researchers found that seniors who felt emotionally disconnected were significantly more likely to experience depression, anxiety, and even physical health decline. Not because of disease, but because of disconnection. We're not just bodies, we're stories, we're memories, we're relationships. When someone dies alone, it's not just the end of a life. It's the end of a witness to history, the end of a library of laughter and lessons. The pain of dying alone isn't only in the final breath. It's in the slow fading of contact, the unanswered calls, the canceled visits, the birthdays that pass with only a Facebook reminder. And perhaps the deepest part of the fear isn't about being alone in the final moment. It's about realizing you've been slowly disappearing long before then. This fear, this ache, lives deep in many of us. Even those who seem strong, social, smiling, because inside, we all carry a need to be known. So, how do we ease that pain? How do we soften the sharp edge of that fear? Sometimes, it's as simple as asking someone how they're really doing and waiting for the answer. Sometimes, it's about picking up the phone, writing that letter, or just showing up. Because even if we can't stop death from coming, we can make sure no one walks toward it feeling forgotten. You are not invisible. She sits by the window every morning. Same chair, same cup of lukewarm tea, same view of the street below. Her name is Margaret. She's 84, a widow. Her children live 2 states away. Her neighbors moved out years ago. The mail still comes, but mostly it's advertisements and medical bills. The window has become her world. From there, she watches life unfold in fragments. A teenager walking a golden retriever, a mailman waving, a couple arguing quietly on the sidewalk. None of it belongs to her, but she clings to it like oxygen. Every afternoon at 3 o'clock, she looks at her phone. Not because someone promised to call, but because maybe today is the day they will. And when the screen stays dark, she smiles anyway. She tells herself they're busy. Life is busy. But behind the smile, there's a quiet ache. A longing not just for conversation, but for connection. To feel seen. To be remembered. Margaret isn't dramatic. She doesn't complain. She still waters her plants, folds her laundry, watches the same shows she once enjoyed with her husband. But There's a loneliness in her bones now, the kind that settles deep, the kind that doesn't shout, but lingers. One evening, when a neighbor stopped by to return a misdelivered package, she lit up like someone had flipped a switch. Her eyes sparkled, her voice animated. "Would you like some tea?" she asked, a little too eagerly. They stayed for 10 minutes. She talked about her garden, about the latest book she tried to finish, about her grandson's graduation photo she keeps on the shelf. When the neighbor left, she stood at the door just a second longer than necessary. Then she whispered to herself, "That was a good day." It shouldn't take a misdelivered package to remind someone they matter, but for many seniors, it does. Small accidental moments become lifelines. A smile from a stranger, a comment from a cashier, a neighbor who remembers their name. Because when the days stretch long and the house stays quiet, even the smallest gestures feel monumental. Margaret represents thousands, maybe millions, of older adults across the world. People who once hosted lively holidays, juggled jobs and toddlers, kept households running. And now they sit by the window, waiting, not just for a call, but for proof that they still exist in someone else's mind. The tragedy isn't that Margaret is alone. It's that she doesn't feel worthy of being remembered. This story isn't meant to make you sad. It's meant to make you pause. Because there's a Margaret in every neighborhood, sometimes more than one. And maybe they don't need your sympathy. Maybe they just need to know they're still seen. The fear of dying alone begins with the feeling of living invisible. And the solution? It's not complicated. Sometimes it's a cup of tea, a conversation, a moment of eye contact, a reminder that someone still cares. No one should have to earn the right to be remembered, especially not someone who has already given so much. Let's meet the gaze of those behind the windows. Let's say hello. It might seem small, but to someone like Margaret, it could mean everything. But have we truly been forgotten? It can feel that way when the phone doesn't ring, when the holidays pass in silence, when no one asks how you're really doing. The emptiness feels personal, like an intentional erasure, like the world has moved on and left you behind. But sometimes, forgetting isn't cruelty. It's chaos. People don't stop caring. They get lost in the noise of busy lives, deadlines, traffic, and never-ending notifications. Children grow up. Families move away. Days blur into years. And in that blur, we unintentionally leave behind the people who helped raise us, guide us, teach us how to live. You may feel like you've been forgotten, but what if you've only been missed? There's a difference. Being forgotten suggests you no longer matter. Being missed means there's still space in someone's heart. You just haven't heard from them yet. The truth is, many adult children carry quiet guilt. They remember the birthdays they skipped, the messages they meant to send, the visits they kept postponing. They ache too, but sometimes they don't know how to reconnect. Sometimes they think it's too late, or they assume you've moved on without them. We're all a little wounded in our own way, but the bridge between us is not broken. It's just quiet, and bridges can be rebuilt. Have you tried calling? Not out of obligation, but out of openness? Have you written a letter? Have you shared a memory, even if only with yourself? These small acts are more powerful than they seem. Sometimes, healing begins with being the one who dares to reach. You are not a burden. Your voice still matters, and your presence, even in its quietest form, is still deeply needed. This isn't about forcing joy. It's about recognizing that you still hold a place in someone's story, even if they haven't told you lately. The human heart has an astonishing memory. It remembers the lullabies you once sang, the meals you prepared, the stories you told by the fire. Your legacy didn't disappear. It just got dusty, and dust can be wiped away. So no, you haven't truly been forgotten. You've just been waiting to be found again. let this be a reminder. There is still time. Time to reconnect. Time to forgive. Time to be seen. Sometimes, the greatest act of courage is reaching out one more time, despite the silence. Because the silence is not the end. It's only the space between two voices. And yours still echoes in the hearts of those who once called you home. Let's continue. The silent presence of love. Love doesn't always announce itself. It doesn't always come in the form of daily phone calls or surprise visits. Sometimes love is quiet, hidden, lingering beneath the surface like a steady heartbeat. And just because it's silent doesn't mean it's absent. There's a story of a man named George. He hadn't spoken to his daughter in nearly 3 years. Not because of a fight, just life. She moved to another state, started a new job, raised 2 kids. George never wanted to interrupt. He convinced himself she'd call when she had time. But what he didn't know was that every Sunday, without fail, she looked at her phone, thumb hovering over his name. She typed out messages she never sent. She bought cards she never mailed. She cried some nights, wondering if he thought she'd forgotten. Love was there. It was just stuck in the quiet. So often, we mistake silence for absence. But many times, the people we think have forgotten us are still carrying us. In thoughts, in photos, in the quiet spaces of their hearts. They remember the way we laughed, the way we folded their clothes, the way we always knew what to say when life got hard. They carry our voices inside them, even when they forget to dial our number. This is the silent presence of love. It's in the boxes of old letters they keep, but don't open. The saved voicemails they replay on hard days. The recipes they still cook, because they taste like home. It's in the way they hesitate when they pass by your old chair, or the way they smile when someone reminds them of you. Love, when real, doesn't vanish. It just sometimes falls behind the noise. Yes, it would be easier if everyone said it out loud. If they showed up on your doorstep, arms open, eyes full of apologies and love. But some people are afraid. Afraid they waited too long. Afraid you won't want to hear from them. Afraid of their own guilt. And yet, none of that changes the truth. You are still loved. You are still remembered, even in the silence. Sometimes, it's just waiting for an opening, a moment of courage, a bridge to be crossed. And here's something beautiful. You don't always have to wait for them. You can be the spark. You can send the letter. You can make the call. Not because you were wrong, but because you're brave. And when that happens, when love, once silent, is spoken again, it feels like rain after drought. Healing begins. So don't be fooled by the quiet. Behind it, love may still be holding its breath, waiting for the chance to say, I never stopped caring. Have you ever tried? One more time? You might be thinking, what's the point? What's the point of reaching out again when your last message was left unread? When your call went to voicemail twice? When birthdays passed without even a card or a quick hello? Reaching out again can feel like reopening a wound. It takes courage to risk silence, to risk disappointment, to risk hearing nothing at all. But what if this time is different? What if the silence wasn't rejection, but distraction? What if the delay wasn't distance, but fear? What if the person you miss has been waiting for you too, but didn't know how to begin? Sometimes all it takes is one more try, one more call, one more letter, one more moment of vulnerability. Not because it guarantees a response, but because it guarantees something far more important. That you chose hope over hesitation. Because even if it doesn't change their world, it might change yours. There's something powerful in doing the reaching. In saying, I still care, even if you're not sure they still do. It reclaims your agency. It reminds you that love isn't just about receiving, it's about offering. Maybe they don't respond, or maybe they do, but awkwardly unsure of what to say. And maybe, just maybe, they answer with tears in their voice saying, "I didn't think you'd want to talk to me." You won't know unless you try. You are not weak for wanting connection. You're not desperate for missing someone. You're not foolish for trying again. In fact, it may be the most courageous thing you do all year. Sometimes, the path to peace isn't paved with closure. It's paved with honesty, with action, with giving someone the chance to show up, even if they failed you before. This is not about pretending everything was okay. It's about saying, "I miss you, and I'm still here." You don't have to write a novel, just a line. Thinking of you today. I saw something that reminded me of you. I hope you're well. That's it. You never know how far that one line might travel into someone's heart. And even if the message never gets returned, you've already done something remarkable. You've shown love. You've opened a door. You've planted a seed. And that seed might not bloom today, but one day it might. So, have you ever tried? Just one more time. If not, maybe today is the day. We were not meant to die alone. Humans are born into connection. From our first breath, we are cradled, held, loved. We cry and someone comes. We fall and someone lifts us. We laugh and someone laughs with us. So why, at the very end, do so many of us find ourselves alone? We were not meant to die in isolation. Not in dim hospital rooms. Not in empty houses. Not in the quiet corners of the world where no one remembers our name. We were meant to be surrounded by hands that once held ours, by voices that knew our stories, by eyes that reflected back our worth. Dying alone is not just a tragedy of circumstance. It's a fracture in what it means to be human. Because when no one is there to witness your final breath, it feels like your whole life might disappear with it. And yet, this isn't just about death. It's about dignity. Every person, no matter how old, how quiet, how long it's been since someone called, deserves to feel that their life mattered, that their presence was noticed, that their soul was seen. We must remember that presence isn't measured in grand gestures. It's not about throwing parties or flying across the country. Sometimes, presence is a phone call. Sometimes, it's sitting beside someone in silence. Sometimes, it's just not letting the silence win. There's a reason we hold vigils. A reason we gather to say goodbye. A reason we pause when someone leaves this world. Because bearing witness is sacred. Because no one should cross that final threshold thinking they were invisible. You don't need to be related to someone to be present for them. You don't need the perfect words. You just need to show up. We were made to be seen, made to be remembered, made to matter. And if we can remember that truth, not just when someone is gone, but while they're still here, maybe fewer people will face that final hour alone. So, reach for the forgotten. Sit beside the lonely. Remind them they still belong. Because when we show up for each other, especially in life's quietest moments, we restore something ancient and sacred. The truth that we were never meant to walk alone. Not in life, not in love, and certainly not in death. A letter at the end of life. If I could write one last letter before I go, it might sound something like this. To whoever finds this, I hope you know I tried. I tried to live kindly. I tried to laugh often. I tried to forgive more than I wanted to. And I tried to love, even when it hurt. There were days I didn't understand the world, and days the world didn't understand me. But I still woke up each morning and made my tea, watered the plants, and said thank you for one more day. I wasn't always brave. I wasn't always wise, but I was always real. I hope someone remembers that about me. I don't have many photographs left. Some were lost in moves, others faded with time. But there are memories that still live inside me. Like my son's first laugh, the way my husband looked at me on our wedding day, the smell of my mother's cooking on a Sunday afternoon. I remember dancing barefoot in the kitchen, crying at movies I'd seen a dozen times, and laughing so hard once I dropped my coffee mug. I remember the ache of loss and the sweetness of second chances. If I die alone, please don't think my life was empty. It was full of small joys, quiet mornings, meaningful silences, of books and music and moments where I felt deeply alive. I know we live in a world that often values the loud, the fast, the visible, but I found meaning in the slow, in the unnoticed, in the whispered prayers no one else heard. If you're reading this, maybe you're scared. Maybe you've lost someone, or maybe you're the one who feels lost. But I promise you this: love still finds us, even in silence, even in solitude. I hope someone remembers my laugh. I hope someone still hums the songs I used to sing. I hope someone passes by my old porch and thinks, she used to sit there every evening with her tea. I hope you know that a quiet life can still be a beautiful one. Please don't let the last chapter fool you. The story was good, and I'm grateful I lived it. With all my heart, someone who was here. Let that letter echo for those who can no longer speak. Let it be a reminder that even when lives end quietly, they are never meaningless. Let's write better endings. Together, shall we? You are not alone. You were always loved. If you've made it this far, thank you. Thank you for staying, for listening, for allowing these words to sit with you a while. Because maybe this story wasn't just about someone else. Maybe it was also about you. Maybe you felt invisible. Maybe you've wondered if anyone notices you're still here. Maybe you've questioned whether the life you've lived, quiet, steady, unremarkable by the world's standards, truly mattered. Let me tell you now, it did. You mattered in ways you may never fully understand. In the meals you made, the laughter you shared, the advice you gave, the hands you held. You mattered to people who never found the words to say it. You mattered to lives you didn't even know you touched. And no matter how silent things may feel today, you are not alone. The truth is, love isn't always loud. It doesn't always knock on your door with flowers or show up wrapped in perfect words. Sometimes love is memory. Sometimes it's a ripple that keeps moving long after you sent it out. You were seen. You were felt. You are still here. And even if your circle has grown smaller, even if the phone doesn't ring as often, you are not forgotten. Someone carries your story in their heart. Someone remembers the way you made them feel. And that, more than anything, is proof that you've never been alone. So if the fear of dying alone has ever crept into your thoughts, let this be your reminder. You were always loved. You are still loved. And love, real love, outlasts distance, silence, and even time. Let's not wait until the end to say these things. Let's say them now. You matter. You are seen. You are loved. Thank you for being here. And if no one's told you this in a while, I'm glad you exist, truly. If this message meant something to you, take a moment to reach out to someone you love today. And if this story touched your heart, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Your support helps these messages reach more people who need them.